Do you have an expired pastry for my son? Diana's trembling voice cut through the silence of the snack bar like a knife. The 35-year-old black woman held the hand of Anna, a 6-year-old girl who hid behind her mother's legs, her big eyes fixed on the dirty floor. Roberto, the manager of Golden Pastry, looked up from his cell phone with irritation. His expression changed instantly when he saw who had spoken, from barely concealed contempt to a cruel smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Excuse me, what's that?" "It's her birthday today," Diana whispered, pointing to Anna. "I just wanted to know if you had anything you were going to throw away anyway. It doesn't have to be fresh, anything will do." The man sitting at the corner table stopped chewing his sandwich. Gabriel Williams, 48, was dressed simply, faded jeans and a plain cotton shirt. Nothing about him screamed that he was the owner of one of the largest restaurant chains on the East Coast. He had come in for a surprise inspection in disguise, something he did regularly at establishments he was considering acquiring. But what he was about to witness would change everything. "Hey everyone!" Roberto shouted to the kitchen, his voice echoing deliberately loud. "There's a beggar here wanting free food for her son." Diana felt her face burn. Some customers turned to look, some with pity, others with discomfort. Anna began to cry softly, holding tighter to the hem of her mother's worn dress. "Please, sir," Diana maintained her dignity despite the tears threatening to fall. "I'm not asking for anything that costs money. Just something you would throw away." Roberto leaned over the counter, his malicious smile widening. "You know what the problem is with people like you? You always have an excuse, you always have a sad story. It's my birthday, I haven't eaten in days, my dog is sick." "I've heard them all." Gabriel slowly put down his sandwich. His eyes, which had built an empire by assessing people and situations in seconds, caught something that others didn't notice. Diana wasn't just begging. There was something in her posture, in the way her shoulders remained straight despite the humiliation, that suggested a much more complex story. "Look, honey," Roberto continued, savoring each word, "this is a serious establishment. We don't feed bums. If you want something for your son, get a job and pay like normal people." That's when Anna spoke, her little voice breaking the heart of anyone with a soul. "Mommy, let's go. I'm not hungry anyway." Diana closed her eyes for a second, taking a deep breath. When she opened them, there was a dangerous determination shining in them, the kind of look that smart people recognize as a warning. Gabriel watched, fascinated, as Diana bent down, kissed Anna on the forehead, and whispered something in the girl's ear. Then she stood up, looked Roberto straight in the eye, and said with frightening calm, "You're right. People like me always have a story." And then they left, Diana holding Anna by the hand, her back straight like a queen leaving her throne. Roberto laughed loudly, clapping his hands sarcastically, but Gabriel noticed that some people in the cafeteria seemed uncomfortable with the scene. What Roberto couldn't imagine was that Diana had memorized every detail of that place. The broken security cameras, the expired health certificate hanging behind the counter, and most importantly, his full name embroidered on his uniform. If this story of humiliation and overcoming adversity is moving you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what Diana would do next would prove that the most vulnerable are not always the most defenseless. As they walked down the street, Anna looked back and saw something strange. The man at the corner table had gotten up and was following them from a distance. Diana noticed it too, but instead of fear, an almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. Some secrets, she knew, were more powerful when kept at the right moment. Diana and Anna walked 3 blocks in silence before stopping at a small, abandoned square. The girl sat on a broken bench, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the ground. "Mommy, why was that man so mean?" Diana knelt in front of her daughter, her eyes still shining with that dangerous determination. "Because some people believe they can treat others like trash and get away with it." She took an old cell phone out of her pocket. It wasn't a modern smartphone, but it worked. "But you know what those people don't know, sweetheart?" "What?" "That Mommy used to be a lawyer. And lawyers never forget to document everything." While Diana comforted Anna, Gabriel had discreetly left the snack bar and followed them, keeping a respectful distance. His business experience had taught him that the best opportunities often came disguised as seemingly simple problems. And there was something about Diana that piqued his professional curiosity. Back at Golden Pastry, Roberto couldn't stop laughing at the situation. He picked up his cell phone and sent a message to the employees' WhatsApp group. "Guys, you missed the fun today. A beggar came here wanting free food for her son. I told her a few home truths. The replies came quickly. Ha ha, these bums have no shame. Well done. You have to speak up. I bet she made up that it was the child's birthday. Roberto screenshotted the messages and sent them to his girlfriend, Carla, with the caption, "Look how I deal with these situations at work." What Roberto didn't know was that Diana had returned and was standing across the street, watching every move through the window. She discreetly took photos of the establishment, noted the hours of operation, and identified how many employees were on site. Her years as a labor lawyer had taught her that every detail matters when building a case. Gabriel, strategically positioned near newsstand, watched both Diana and the snack bar. When he saw that she was methodically documenting everything, he smiled to himself. "She's definitely not your average victim," he muttered. Diana took out her cell phone and made a call. "Hi, Lucas. It's Diana. Yes, I know it's been a while. Listen, remember that favor you said you owed me? Well, the time has come. No, it's nothing illegal. I just need you to use your contacts in investigative journalism." Gabriel watched Diana talk for 15 minutes, always keeping Anna close by. The girl seemed accustomed to her mother making important calls, another clue that there was much more to this story. When Diana hung up, she returned to the snack bar. Roberto saw her through the window and made a point of laughing loudly, pointing at her so that the other employees would see. Diana entered calmly and went straight to the counter. "I forgot to ask," she said with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Do you have an up-to-date health certificate? I ask because I intend to make a formal complaint to the Health Surveillance Agency about the hygiene conditions I observed here." Roberto stopped laughing. "What do you mean?" "I would also like to know if your employees receive training on customer service and consumer rights. Because publicly humiliating people can be considered moral damage." Diana took a small notebook out of her pocket. "Oh, and what is the full name of the owner of this establishment? For the official documents." Roberto's face changed completely. "Look here, you can't come here making threats." "I'm not making threats," Diana interrupted, her voice maintaining a professional tone. "I'm exercising my rights as a consumer. Rights that, incidentally, are protected by law." She pointed to a faded poster on the wall. "I see that you also do not comply with the requirement to clearly display product prices." Roberto swallowed hard. Suddenly, that beggar was talking like a lawyer. "Oh, and Roberto," Diana said, reading the name embroidered on his uniform, "I suggest you be more careful with your social media, especially when you post about how you treat customers." She smiled coldly. The internet never forgets. Gabriel, who had entered right behind Diana and was pretending to choose sandwiches from the shelf, had to struggle not to smile. The woman was brilliant. In 5 minutes, she had turned Roberto from predator to prey. Diana left the snack bar, leaving Roberto pale and confused. He immediately grabbed his cell phone and began deleting the messages he had sent, but it was too late. Diana already had everything documented. Outside, Gabriel approached cautiously. "Excuse me," he called. Diana turned, instinctively placing herself between him and Anna. "I was in the snack bar and I must say I was impressed with the way you handled the situation." Diana studied the man carefully. Simple clothes, but confident posture. Intelligent eyes. "And you are?" "Gabriel. Gabriel Williams." He extended his hand. "And I get the impression that you're not exactly who you seem to be." Diana shook his hand, maintaining a firm grip. "Attorney Diana Santos. Nice to meet you, Gabriel." She looked at Anna, then back at him. "And you're right. I'm not who I seem to be." Gabriel smiled. "Neither am I." As the two greeted each other politely on that sidewalk, neither revealed the whole truth about who they really were. Gabriel didn't mention that he owned one of the largest restaurant chains on the East Coast. Diana didn't say that, before losing everything in a brutal divorce, she had been one of the most feared labor lawyers in the city. And Roberto, still inside the diner frantically deleting his messages, had no idea that he had just provoked two of the most dangerous people he could have encountered, and that they were now joining forces. Gabriel and Diana walked to a discreet cafe 3 blocks from the diner, Anna holding her mother's hand and looking curiously at the man who seemed genuinely interested in helping. Sitting at a corner table, away from prying ears, the two began to reveal their true cards. "So," Gabriel said, stirring the sugar into his coffee, "labor lawyer specializing in consumer rights, I imagine?" Diana smiled for the first time that day. Double specialization. Consumer rights and corporate social responsibility. And you, Gabriel Williams, who coincidentally showed up at a third-rate diner on a Tuesday afternoon. Let's just say I have an interest in food service establishments. Gabriel took a sip of his coffee, especially those with questionable customer service practices. Anna tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, can I go to the bathroom?" "Of course, sweetheart. It's right over there." Diana pointed to the back of the cafe, keeping her daughter in her line of sight. As soon as Anna walked away, Gabriel leaned over the table. "Diana, I'll be direct. I own the Williams Restaurant Group. You may have heard of it, 847 establishments on the East Coast, annual revenue of $2.8 billion. Diana almost choked on her coffee. "You're kidding." "I'm considering acquiring Golden Pastry and 6 other establishments in the area. But after what I saw today," he shook his head. "Let's just say my plans have changed completely." "And what does that have to do with me?" Gabriel smiled. "Because Diana Santos, former partner at Santos & Associates, yes, I did my quick research while you were comforting Anna, you're not just a victim seeking justice. You're a precision weapon that someone has seriously underestimated." Diana felt her heart race. Someone had recognized not only her competence, but her potential. "You researched my past? Enough to know that you didn't lose everything because of incompetence. A brutal divorce, an ex-husband who was a corporate lawyer and used his connections to destroy your career, loss of partial custody of Anna, forced bankruptcy of the firm." Gabriel paused. "But I also know that you won 94% of the cases you took to court." Anna came running back and sat down next to her mother. Gabriel immediately changed his tone, smiling at the girl. "Anna, your mother told me that today is your birthday. How old are you?" 6 years old. Anna showed her little fingers. "But we haven't had cake yet." "Well, that needs to be corrected." Gabriel waved to the waitress. 3 slices of chocolate cake, please." While Anna was distracted by the cake, Diana and Gabriel continued talking in code. "So what's your proposal?" she asked. "Simple. You help me properly document the practices of that establishment, and I'll make sure your findings reach the appropriate authorities. In addition, I can offer temporary legal consulting at my firm." Diana studied his face carefully. "And Roberto?" "Roberto will learn that humiliating people has consequences, but in the right way, legally and devastatingly effective." At that moment, Diana's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Lucas, her journalist contact. "Diana, I got your audio. This is gold. I've got 3 similar cases at the same snack bar in the last 6 months. Victims willing to talk. When can we meet?" Diana showed the message to Gabriel, who nodded in approval. "Where does your friend work?" "Local investigative channel, but with national reach. Lucas Rodriguez. You may be familiar with his work on labor exploitation in the food industry." Gabriel's eyes widened. "The guy who took down the Gastaseo pizza chain?" "Diana, you didn't bring a journalist. You brought a machine gun." Meanwhile, at Golden Pastry, Roberto couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Diana. Something about her had shaken his confidence, and he hated that feeling. To compensate, he decided to take it out on other vulnerable customers. An elderly woman entered the snack bar, counting coins with difficulty. "Young man, how much is that bread roll over there?" 4.50 Brazilian reals, Roberto replied curtly. The woman counted her coins again. "I only have 3.80 Brazilian reals. Will you accept that? It's all I have to eat today." Roberto laughed loudly. "Look, Grandma, this isn't a charity. If you don't have money, you can't buy anything. It's that simple." 2 teenagers who were watching the scene discreetly filmed it with their cell phones. One of them whispered, "Man, what a jerk. I'm going to post this." Roberto, intoxicated by the feeling of power, decided to go further. He took his cell phone and recorded a video for his Instagram stories. "Guys, working with customer service sucks. Every day people show up asking for discounts, wanting free food, always with a sad story. Just today I had to kick out a beggar who wanted expired pastries for her son. People need to learn that life isn't easy for anyone. The video had 127 views in less than an hour, with several friends liking and commenting on things like "Go for it, bro," and "You have to be firm." What Roberto didn't know was that one of the teenagers who filmed the woman's humiliation had sent the video to several WhatsApp groups with the caption, "Look at the kind of people who work at Golden Pastry. Humiliating the elderly for 0.70 Brazilian reals." Back at the cafe, Diana received a call. "Lucas? That was fast." She put it on speaker so Gabriel could hear. "Diana, you won't believe it. In 2 hours, I got 4 different victims from the same snack bar, 3 videos of outraged customers, and brace yourself, the manager himself posted a video on social media bragging about kicking you guys out." Gabriel smiled grimly. "He's building our case himself." "There's more," Lucas continued. "One of the victims is Dona Marta, the lady he humiliated this afternoon. She is 73 years old, a widow, survives on a pension of 1,200 Brazilian reals, and was completely humiliated because she wanted to buy a loaf of bread costing 4.50 Brazilian reals with 3.80 Brazilian reals. Diana felt her indignation grow. "Gabriel, this isn't just about me and Anna anymore. It's a pattern." "Exactly. And patterns are much easier to prosecute than isolated incidents." Gabriel took a card out of his pocket. "Diana, I would officially like to hire you as legal counsel for the Williams Restaurant Group to investigate discriminatory practices in the local food industry." Diana looked at the card, then at Anna, who was finishing the cake with a huge smile on her face. For the first time in months, she felt like she wasn't fighting alone. "I accept," she said, shaking Gabriel's hand. "But on one condition." "What is it?" "When we're done with Roberto, he'll understand that humiliation is a two-way street." Gabriel smiled. "Diana, something tells me you're going to turn this revenge into a masterclass in justice." That night, Diana put Anna to bed in her small rented apartment and called Lucas again. "I need you to do one more thing. I want you to investigate Golden Pastry's labor history. Complaints, lawsuits, anything." "I'm already on it." "Diana, there's something else. I found out that the company that controls Golden Pastry is undergoing a tax audit. If we can prove a pattern of discrimination, it could affect much more than just one arrogant manager." Diana smiled in the dark. Roberto had no idea that every act of cruelty was being carefully documented, every gesture of arrogance was being turned into evidence. He thought he was showing strength, but in fact he was handing over the ammunition for his own destruction. And the most ironic thing of all was that while Roberto slept peacefully, thinking he had put another beggar in her place, 3 of the most competent professionals in town were working to turn his arrogance into his greatest weakness. On Friday morning, Roberto arrived at Golden Pastry with his usual smug smile. 3 days had passed since the incident with the beggar, as he told his friends, and he was feeling particularly powerful. What he didn't know was that Diana, Gabriel, and Lucas had spent those 72 hours meticulously plotting his downfall. "Good morning, Roberto," greeted Carla, the morning employee, but there was something strange in her voice. Nervousness. "What's with the long face?" Roberto frowned. "Did something happen?" Carla pointed to her cell phone. "Have you seen social media today?" Roberto grabbed his phone and opened Instagram. His account had 47 new notifications, all angry comments on his latest post. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, starting to read. "Disgusting. How can you treat a child like that? I hope you lose your job. Sharing this for everyone to see what kind of person you are." Roberto felt his stomach turn cold. He rushed to Facebook, then to TikTok. The same pattern repeated itself. Hundreds of indignant comments, shares with angry captions, people tagging Golden Pastry demanding explanations. "What do you mean? I only posted yesterday." He tried to delete the posts, but it was too late. They had already been saved and reposted dozens of times. At that moment, the door of the snack bar opened and Lucas Rodriguez entered, accompanied by a cameraman and a producer. Roberto recognized the journalist immediately. He was the guy on TV who took down corrupt businessmen. Roberto Santos. Lucas approached the counter. "I'm Lucas Rodriguez, from Canal Investigativo. I'd like to ask you some questions about your customer service practices. Roberto turned completely pale. I don't know what you're talking about. No. Lucas smiled coldly. So it wasn't you who posted this video yesterday? He showed his cell phone with Roberto's own video bragging about kicking Diana and Anna out. The camera was recording. Roberto noticed that some customers had stopped to watch the scene, some already filming with their cell phones. Look, this is out of context, Roberto stammered. Out of context? Lucas raised his eyebrows. Then help me put it in context. Is it normal for you to humiliate 6-year-old children in your establishments? It wasn't like that. Oh really? Lucas waved to the cameraman. We also have this video from yesterday, where you humiliate a 73-year-old woman over 70 cents. Roberto felt his legs go weak when he saw the teenagers recording playing on the cameraman's screen. Mrs. Marta counting coins, your cruel refusal, the public humiliation of the elderly woman. And this one, Lucas continued relentlessly, where you brag about your victories against vulnerable people. It was a printout of the WhatsApp messages Roberto had sent to his friends. How did you get this? Roberto whispered, his face completely white. Investigative journalism, Roberto. You didn't think you could publicly humiliate people without consequences, did you? At that moment, the door opened again. Diana entered, now wearing an impeccable professional suit, her hair tied back, the confident posture of someone who dominated courtrooms. Behind her was Gabriel, whom Roberto still did not know. Ah, Roberto, Diana said with a cold smile. Do you remember me? Roberto instinctively backed away. The woman standing before him was nothing like the vulnerable person from 3 days ago. This was clearly a professional, someone with power. You're not. Attorney Diana Santos, specializing in consumer rights and discrimination. Diana placed a briefcase on the counter. And this is Gabriel Williams, from the Williams Restaurant Group. Roberto frowned, confused. Williams Restaurant Group? Never heard of it. Gabriel smiled. That's normal. We're discreet. But you may be familiar with some of our establishments. Golden Pastry, for example. Roberto's world collapsed in that moment. You're owner of the chain. Yes. Gabriel crossed his arms. And I just watched videos of my manager humiliating customers, posting about it on social media, and establishing a pattern of discrimination that could cost millions in lawsuits. Roberto tried to speak, but Diana interrupted him. Oh, and Roberto? Those documents you were so arrogant as to ignore? Expired health certificates, labor violations, prices not displayed as required by law. I've already forwarded everything to the appropriate authorities. Lucas continued filming. Roberto, any comment on the accusations of systematic discrimination against vulnerable people? That's not. She was lying about being a lawyer. Lying? Diana laughed. Roberto, I never lied about being a lawyer. You simply assumed that a black woman asking for expired food couldn't have a college degree. Gabriel approached. Roberto, you're fired for just cause. Gather your things. You can't do that. I've been working here for 5 years. I can and I am. Discrimination, humiliation of customers, exposure of the company on social media, violation of multiple internal policies. Gabriel handed him a letter. It's all documented here. Roberto opened the letter with trembling hands. It was his official dismissal, with copies to the union, the Ministry of Labor, and the Labor Records Office. And Roberto, Diana added, since you publicly humiliated a child, I am also filing a lawsuit for moral damages. You have 2 weeks to respond in court. This is persecution. No, Gabriel corrected. This is a consequence. You believed you could treat people like trash without repercussions. You were wrong. Lucas turned to the camera. So there you have it, folks. Another case of how prejudice can destroy a career in a matter of minutes. Roberto Santos, former manager of Golden Pastry, discovered today that humiliating vulnerable people comes at a high price. Roberto took his personal belongings from the locker, his hands shaking. In 3 days, he had lost his job, his reputation, and now faced legal action. All because he underestimated two people based on appearances. When he left the snack bar for the last time, Diana was training Carla on the new customer service policies. Gabriel supervised the installation of a banner, "Discrimination-free establishment, everyone is welcome." Outside, Roberto saw a line of people waiting to enter. The controversy had brought a wave of supportive customers, curious to see the place where justice was done. Inside, Anna played quietly at a small table while Diana and Gabriel discussed how to implement a permanent food donation program. Roberto looked back one last time and realized a bitter truth. While trying to humiliate others to feel superior, he had built his own ruin. And the most ironic thing was that the same people he had despised were now thriving, while he walked home unemployed, sued, and publicly humiliated. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't need to be planned. It just happens when you give the right people the tools they need to show exactly who you really are. 6 months later, Diana was in her new office at the Williams Restaurant Group, coordinating a national program to combat discrimination in food establishments. Her story had gone viral, inspiring dozens of other victims to report similar practices. Anna, now 7, attended a private school and took piano lessons on Saturdays, a luxury Diana never imagined she could afford. The girl kept a photo in a frame above her bed of the day they visited the renovated Golden Pastry, where there was now a mural painted by children from the community with the phrase, "Everyone is welcome here." Roberto, meanwhile, was unable to find another job in the food industry. The video of his public humiliation had over 2 million views, and any Google search for his name brought up the full story of his downfall. Divorced, unemployed, and living with his mother at age 34, he finally understood the true weight of his actions. Gabriel turned the Diana case into a business model. He created a dignity-first protocol implemented throughout his network, generating not only good publicity but also increasing revenue by 40% due to the public that began to frequent his establishments for ethical values. The greatest irony was that Roberto, in his arrogance, had brought together two of the most competent people he could find. Gabriel offered Diana a partnership in the company, and together they were expanding the concept to other cities. Lucas Rodriguez won a National Investigative Journalism Award for his series on systemic discrimination in commercial establishments, using the Golden Pastry case as a starting point for an investigation that brought down other prejudiced managers and owners. On a random Tuesday afternoon, Diana passed by the former Golden Pastry, now renamed Comunidad Café, and saw a line of diverse people waiting to be served by Carla, who had become an excellent manager. On the banner at the entrance was the company's new policy: "Here, respect is not a courtesy, it is an obligation." The truth was simple and devastating. Roberto tried to humiliate a woman he judged by her clothes, but ended up being destroyed by his own ignorance. Diana proved that the best revenge is not to repay evil, it is to transform your pain into power and show the whole world who you really are. If this story inspired you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you have ever faced prejudice and how you reacted. Share it so that more people understand that underestimating someone based on their appearance can be the most costly mistake of your life.